Talking about death can be really, really difficult, especially when that's with the people that we love. But in this video, I'm going to explain to you why I think it's such an important thing for us to discuss, not just from a family business perspective, but from a general well-being perspective. So I've just returned from a conference in Denver in Colorado that was called the Purposeful Planning Institute's Rendezvous. If you haven't heard of the Purposeful Planning Institute, I suggest you check them out. There'll be a link in the comments below. But one of the sessions that I attended was called The Elephant in the Room, How to Talk About Death and Dying. Now, it might sound a bit of a morbid conversation, but let's face it, it's going to happen to all of us. Unless Elon Musk or Google come along with some magic formula, we are all going to die one day. So the session tackled how to talk about that with the people that we love. Now, in order to do that, they gamified it a little bit by giving us a deck of 52 cards. On each of the cards was a written statement that we either resonated with or didn't. And we were asked to put that into 3 piles. One pile of very important, another pile of not so important, and 3 not important at all. Once you'd done that, you were asked to pick your top 3. So my top 3 were, I want my family to be looked after. That's first and foremost for me. Secondly is I want my life to have had meaning, and that's why I do the work I do. Thirdly, it was to be happy. Now, it's a very broad definition when we come to happiness, and today's video is not to go into that. But what it allowed me to do is to focus on what are the things I'm going to look back on my dying day and judge my life against. The company that ran the session was called Dialogues, D-Y-A-L-O-G-U-E-S, and the 2 ladies were called Dawn and Nancy. And they ran through an example of Nancy's request of how she wants to die, basically. And she said very clearly she wanted to be holding somebody's hand. Now, exploring that a little bit more with her, it was to be her husband or her son's hand. She wanted that to be something that she had at her last moments. And through the questioning that Dawn provided during that session, it became clear that holding her husband and her son's hand is really important now. And that was the point of the session, is the things that we focus on and look back and think, well, I want this to have happened by the time that I die, are obviously the things that are really, really important to us. So for me, security for my family is important now. I don't want to wait until my dying day to think that's important to me. And so it was a real awakening to think, if I'm on my deathbed, what is it that I want to have happened in my life in order for me to feel I've done a good job? And those were the 3 things for me. It might be a really interesting exercise to now talk to your loved ones, your family, about how you wish to die and how you wish to be remembered, for example. So we can start looking at how to create a legacy. So if your values is to look back and think, I've lived a good life because I've had a positive impact on the community, as an example. You can start focusing on what you need to do today in order to be able to do that. And it may be that you're already doing that, and that's fantastic. But if there's things that are in there that you hadn't perhaps thought of before, now's the time to start doing that. The reason the exercise was so empowering and uplifting was because it allowed us to focus on what's really important to us now. We're not talking about us being on our deathbeds now. Let's hope that that's not the case. But the point is, by focusing on that and being able to segment it into those 3 piles of what's important, not so important, and not really at all, it allowed us to focus. There were lots of tears in the room. There were lots of people who felt genuinely empowered by what they were discussing with their partner. We were put into pairs, and we had to discuss these things and why they were important to us. So it became really real for all of us in that room as to what's important in our lives. If you haven't had those discussions with your family and it happens suddenly, the turmoil that it can throw you and the business into is horrendous. We've seen it all too often in the work that we do, that there is a lack of discussion around succession when it's planned, and particularly succession when it's not planned. So when we frame that around business continuity and planning for that business continuity, it allows you to have additional focus. Now, the session closed with a fantastic slide. It was a picture of Charlie Brown and Snoopy with their backs to us, gazing out from the end of a jetty. And Charlie says to Snoopy, "One day we will die, Snoopy." And Snoopy replies, "Yes, but every other day we will live." I think that's a really important message. I hope that's been useful. Until next time, take care.